Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good stuff. And I'm, of course, today thrilled to be joined by the likes of the one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
John, I'm thrilled to be here today because a little voice on the interwebs told me that this particular episode of this particular show is a very momentous episode.
Yeah, it was about 15 or 20 minutes before the show started, before we started the show, that I noticed a bunch of people were sending me messages saying today was the 500th episode. Today is the 500th episode of the John Campea Show.
That's like more than The Simpsons. No, I'm just kidding. No,
which I have not been keeping track of. I have not been keeping track of it. So maybe they're wrong, but I've got a bunch of people telling me today's the 500th episode. So yay, 500th episode. And
congratulations to you.
Yeah,
well, congrats to all of us for that. And thank you to you guys for supporting us at home. And here to help us celebrate the 500th episode is Ashley Whalen. Ashley, how you doing?
I'm great. Good morning. That's such an amazing triumph. Congratulations, John. And I love how people are keeping track of that for you.
Yeah, that's the funniest part about it, is that people are actually keeping track of this stuff for me, which is great. So thank you so much, because I never keep track. Look, I can't dress myself. I can't keep track of anything. So thank you guys. And maybe you can just start telling me what to wear at certain events. That would be great if you guys could all do that. All right. Now, before we get into our main topics here today, guys, we do have a few items off the top that we need to get to, and we're going to start with this. We all know that there is a Morbius movie coming. Following on their incredible success with Venom, Sony's now following that up with Morbius, and they went out and got more A-list talent with Academy Award winner Jared Leto playing the role. They have now begun shooting the film. It's now in front of the cameras. It's not theoretical. It's in front of cameras. They're working on it as we speak, and they just wrapped their first week of shooting. To celebrate their first week of shooting and wrapping that up, Jared Leto took on to his social media and put out a first picture from him on set of Morbius. Of course, we're getting a little bit of a sense of what the logo might look like, looking at the bottom of the clapper there. So that might give us a little bit of sense. Now, Morbius is scheduled to come out next summer. I believe it's June of 2020. And I'll tell you what, I'm still pretty darn excited about this film. I'm still pretty darn excited that they're doing this, especially if they can kind of replicate the good time they gave us with Venom. Rob, this thing's actually happening, because I know even just heading into the end of 2018, there were still some people, understandably so, that were skeptical that this movie would actually go into production. It's in production now, and we got our first picture. What are you thinking?
I think it's great. I mean, look, after Venom, they already had this teed up. So after Venom took home all that international cheddar, they're like, I think it's time for another Spider-Man spinoff movie. Why not? Jared Leto's an Academy Award winner. You know, he starred in one of my favorite little scene science fiction fantasy films. I think it came out in 2009, a movie called Mr. Nobody.
Oh,
There's actually two versions of it. I recommend everyone get the longer version. But if you have never seen Mr. Nobody, he gives a tour de force performance. I mean, it's really incredible. And it's one of the great science fiction fantasy films, the unsung fantasy films of the last 20 years. It's great. So I can't wait for this. I mean, Jared Leto is a vampire. I kind of hoped he'd play Lestat, because obviously 30 Seconds to Mars is his band. Lestat is a rock star, so I'd love to have seen a vampire Lestat with him in the lead role, but I guess he's Morbius now.
He's got a busy year, because he's going to be shooting Morbius for about another 10 weeks. I think it's 12 weeks of total shooting. They're down 11 more weeks, I guess, to go. But he's also got a tour. His band, 30 Seconds to Mars, is also touring this year, so he's going to be kind of busy. And look, I'm still all on board with this. I even like Jared Leto. I know a lot of people don't, and that's fine, but I liked him as Joker. I just didn't think they utilized him at all properly. I think they should have done so much more with him, particularly with the dynamic with Harley Quinn. But I did enjoy what he brought to it. I think he's a terrific actor. He's an Academy Award-winning actor. I still think the Morbius title is a interesting one to follow up Venom with, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt at this point, and I'll just look forward to June 2020. All right, with that down and out of the way, let's go on to this next little bit. We've all known that for some reason, Disney has decided to do a sequel to Maleficent. Now, Maleficent didn't blow the doors off the box office, but it did okay. And quite frankly, I didn't think it was all that good of a movie. Angelina Jolie gave a terrific performance in it, but I just wasn't a big fan of Maleficent. And with all the live action remakes they've been doing, You'd think there would be about 30 other properties they could do live action remakes of, and they are doing some of them, but they're also doing Maleficent. Now, Maleficent 2 was supposed to come out in May of 2020 or May of 2020. Well, guess what? They just moved the release date a lot, and they've given it a title. And instead of pushing the movie back, they have brought it forward 7 months. This movie, Maleficent 2, which has a new title, is now going to open in October of this year. So they moved it up by a mile, and we have our first official poster and title for the movie. The movie is now called Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Evil. Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Here's the thing, though, that confused me about this. She wasn't evil in the first movie, and that was one of the things I didn't like about it. I was looking forward to them doing Maleficent and having a movie about the villain, but it just turned out she was really just a misunderstood person with a good heart, and she was really a good person, so that bothered me. And now they're coming out with the sequel, and they're calling it Mistress of Evil. So I don't know, Rob, number one, what did you think of the first Maleficent? Your reaction to them moving the dates and the title, and do you think they might actually make her evil this one out?
Well, I kind of like Maleficent. I liked her in the role. I loved her. I loved the design of her character. But you're right. She wasn't. It was almost like they were afraid to make her that evil.
Yeah.
If she's tied into a Disney animated property, we can't make her. She can't go peak evil. But Mistress of Evil, bring it on. Plus, by the way, did you know, John, that Hot Toys made a fantastic Maleficent figure? Did you know that?
I did not.
It's true. But they did, and maybe they'll make more. But I would love to see a really dark, in-your-face, total full villain, casting spells, wrecking shop Maleficent. Why not?
Okay, look, I'm with you. I'd love to see that too. But here's my fear right now. Just as going into the last Maleficent, it was supposed to be about the bad, because she's as bad as they come in the animated world, and they kind of made her the good guy. Rob, what if I told you, and I don't know this. This is me speculating in a very worrisome way. What if I told you that Mistress of Evil does not refer to Maleficent, but it's called Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and the Mistress of Evil is another character in the movie. Like somebody else entirely. What do you think that's a possibility, or do you think they'll actually stick with this?
Oh no, I think you're probably onto something there, John. Because nobody can be in our world today. You can't make somebody evil. Everybody has to be enabled in some way that they can be redeemed at the end of the day. We're not. It's like when Darth Vader, he might have killed lots of kids and destroyed Alderaan, and how many people did he murder? But at the end of the day, Luke felt the good in Darth. So I think that maybe Maleficent too is not truly ever evil.
Did you? I can't remember if it was Robot Chicken that did it. Did you ever see that Robot Chicken thing where it's a Star Wars thing and they're on and the moon of Endor at the post celebration and everything?
Oh no.
Oh my gosh, they do this thing where they've got Obi-Wan's ghost and Yoda's ghost, and Luke's talking to them, and then Anakin's ghost pops up, and Luke is like, "What the beep are you doing here? What? I saved you from the Emperor. You murdered billions of people." Yeah, but in the end, I kind of saved you. I'm your own kid. You murdered a room full of children. Yeah, it's amazing. If you guys haven't seen it, it goes into that whole Darth Vader thing, and it's like, wait a minute. So one thing he does for his own kid undoes everything else he's ever done bad. I mean, I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, I hope it is what it looks like. I hope it's Maleficent. I hope she's evil. And even if she's a good person, something else bad happens to her that pushes her to being completely full-blown evil. I hope Mistress of Evil is her. I'm just saying I've got a bad feeling that the Mistress of Evil isn't actually Maleficent. It's going to be another character that Maleficent bravely stands up against.
You could be right.
Fights against. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm dead wrong about that. All right, guys, with that out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. How do we select our main topics here on the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys pick our main topics by submitting your topics and questions to us by going to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. When you go to that webpage, you're going to see a form there. Just fill out the form and hit submit. It will send in your topics and questions to us, and maybe you will see your question pop up here on the John Campea Show. And by the way, guys, that is a new thing. It's not emailing anymore. This is a new system for us to collect your topics and questions. It just helps me keep everything much more organized. So with that down and out of the way, Ashley, what is our first email today?
First one up is from Regan Sims. Are you hyped for the new Witcher show? Also, do you think this will break the video game to film curse? And do you think it will be as big as Game of Thrones? P.S. Just started watching the show, and now it's my go-to channel for movie topics.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Regan. We really appreciate that. Well, let's start with this. We all know that Witcher is coming. Henry Cavill, who was so good as Superman in Man of Steel in the DC Cinematic Universe, he is playing the lead character, and there you go. A lot of people excited. I believe it. Where was it coming again? Was it Amazon or Netflix? I can't remember now. I think it's Netflix, or maybe it's Amazon. I can't remember. One of the two. But anyway, it's coming. Now, first thing we should probably address here that a bunch of people are screaming at their computer screens right now about is that technically speaking, Witcher isn't a video game adaptation. Technically speaking, it's based on the books. Because I believe that I've never read that I really don't know anything about, but it's based on a series of books, and that's what the video game is based on. And from what I understand, they are more basing this new show on the stories as opposed to basing it on the video game. So there will be some people who correctly will say it's not a video game adaptation. I would argue that while they are absolutely correct, that what most people who have heard of Witcher, the way they've heard it was because of the video game. So from a perception point of view, and perception is not always correct, but from a perception point of view, to a lot of people, it is a video game adaptation. So I can totally see why you would suggest that and ask that. Rob, let me ask you this. Do you think, now that we're kind of they've been shooting this thing for a while now, we've got Henry Cavill in the role, they've locked it in. Do you think a show like this could rival that of something like Game of Thrones? But more importantly, could this finally be, because we talked about it with Warcraft and that didn't work out. We talked about it with Assassin's Creed and that didn't work out. We talked about it with Tomb Raider and that didn't work out. We've been waiting for a video game story to come along that can break that curse and give us something that everybody loves that's based on a video game property, even if indirectly so, as in the situation with Witcher. Do you think this could be that? Do you think you get the heights of Lord of the Rings? Where do you see the possibilities for something like this?
Well, you know, I'm always optimistic when anything comes from literary source material, because for the most part, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end, or in the case of multiple books, you know, an ongoing storyline. And if this is truly, it's an episodic show. So the fact that you know, the problem with video game adaptations is video games are not drama. You know, the cutscenes are inherently set up to move a story along, so you, the gamer, can continue playing. And that's not to say games like The Last of Us don't have compelling stories. But when you have a book to look back on, look at The Expanse. The Expanse is a great science fiction series. It's based on a series of 8 novels. They know where they're going. They're basically doing a novel. So with The Witcher show, to have that storytelling background to build the show on gets me really excited. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I
don't know if it's going to be Thrones great.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, and that is the tendency of us as fans, right? We go instantly, oh, there's a new cop, or there's a new movie about a guy in the mob. Will it be as good as The Godfather? I mean, we instantly, like, there's a new comic book movie. Will it be as good as The Dark Knight? I mean, that's what we do, right? That's what we all do. We jump that thing, and I think you raised a great point. Let's not worry about whether it's as good as Game of Thrones. Let's not even worry about that. Let's start with step one. Let's start with, will it be good?
Right.
Let's just let it be good.
You know, it's kind of like how I worry about New Line's announced Hello Kitty movie. There's no literary background for a Hello Kitty movie. There's just, you know, fun little places to put your pencils and toasters and stuff. How are they going to make a Hello Kitty movie relevant? They have no story to follow. Witcher does.
Well,
Witcher could be great.
Yeah, but Lego didn't have a story to follow either, and they just made one up. And by the way, if you guys don't know what he's talking about Hello Kitty, stay tuned for the movie news feed that's coming up a little bit later in the show, because we're going to give you a little bit more details on that as well. Okay, with that down and out of the way, Ashley, what is our next topic today?
All right, next up is from Zane Drake. Hi, John. With the new Spider-Man movie coming in July, how much money do you think it'll make? Do you think it will be the highest grossing Spider-Man movie and the first to cross $1 billion? And why or why not?
Yeah, so we do have a new Spider-Man movie on the way. And the question has come up in talking about success. We just had this huge surprise success with Aquaman, a film that I didn't even think would cross 800 million, let alone $1 billion, and ended up making $1.1 billion. So now we're coming into Spider-Man. Now, some of you may have heard that question and thought, wait a minute, no, didn't Spider-Man 3 make $1 billion? It's true. Out of all the Spider-Man films have been successful, not one of them has ever crossed the $1 billion mark. That's why the $1 billion club still means something. It's still hard to get into. Because when you go down the history of the Spider-Man films, you're talking about the first Spider-Man, which was an incredible hit at $821 million. Spider-Man 2, $783 million. Spider-Man 3, which a lot of us don't like to talk about, but whatever, made $890 million, still to this day, the highest grossing of the Spider-Man movies. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2012, the Amazing Spider-Man 2012, a movie that I like a lot, actually, made $757 million. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014 made $708 million. Spider-Man Homecoming 2017 made $880 million. And then, of course, the new animated, kind of a much different sort of horse of a different color here, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has made $363 million. So we've never had a Spider-Man film get even real close to breaking $1 billion. But I'm going to tell you why I believe Spider-Man Far From Home can be that film in the Spider-Man IP to finally break the $1 billion mark. And there's two important factors here. Important factor number one, people love this Spider-Man in the MCU. Now, they love Tobey Maguire as well. Some of us loved Andrew Garfield. Some of us loved Andrew Garfield. But people are loving this Tom Holland in the people really enjoyed Homecoming. It got great responses from audiences and critics, and it made a hell of a lot of money, $880 million. So it's already on the cusp. Then Spider-Man plays this big, important part in Infinity War and has the most memorable of the dustings, right? Also, when you look at movies coming off of Avengers movies, right? So let's go back to the first Avengers movie. The first Avengers movie comes out. The very next movie in the MCU to come out was Iron Man 3, which made more money than the previous Iron Man did. So coming out right after Avengers helped Iron Man take a step up. The next sequel that came out after an Avengers movie was Ant-Man 2, or Ant-Man the Wasp, which came out right after Infinity War. Well, what happened to Ant-Man 2? It ended up making more money than the previous Ant-Man did. So now the movie coming out immediately after Endgame is Spider-Man Far From Home. If the pattern continues, it suggests to us that Spider-Man could make more money than its previous film coming out right after Endgame. It already made $880, and people are loving this character. So I think all those reasons and more, I think a lot of that leads us to a place where I feel pretty comfortable saying, yeah, I think Spider-Man Far From Home is going to be the first Spider-Man movie to join that $1 billion club. Rob, you've heard my reasons. Tell me why I'm wrong or tell me why I'm right. And what do you think about all that?
No, I mean, look, I think when people enjoy a character, and specifically, I think the Holland portrayal of Spider-Man is spot on. He's my favorite Spider-Man we've ever had in the movies. He's in high school. He feels right. He's so much fun to watch. And I mean, the fact that I felt some of my soul left my body at the end of Infinity War as he was saying goodbye to Mr. Stark and saying, please, I don't want to go. I was like, no, I mean, I love that character. I've always loved Spider-Man. And I think that, especially after Infinity War and Endgame, and Captain Marvel, people are going to be primed to see him go on a lighthearted, spider-rific adventure in Europe. I mean, it looks great. Mysterio, Nick Fury, what's not to love? I'm thinking $1 billion.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm thinking $1 billion is kind of the place it's going to come in. Let me ask you, Ashley, do you think another Spider-Man film can actually crack the $1 billion mark? Could it be the biggest Spider-Man film ever at this point?
I think with all the hype from Infinity War and the love of of the actor and the character, that this would be the one to do it, I think.
Yeah, I think if any of them are going to do it, I think this is the one. So let's wait and find out. All right, Ashley, what's the next topic today?
The next one comes from Trevor Whitaker. Greetings, John. Like almost everyone, I'm so excited for the next Christopher Nolan movie. He's been my absolute favorite director since The Dark Knight, and I loved every single one of his movies. I saw that his new film coming out in 2020 is being described as North by Northwest meets Inception. How crazy does that sound? Are you guys excited for it, and how do you interpret that description? Bring on the filthy.
Yeah. So what he's talking about here is a bunch of news outlets yesterday were running with something that got mentioned in the playlist, or it's either in playlist or on playlist's Twitter account. And they mentioned that the next Christopher Nolan movie, they talk about when this might be going in front of cameras and all this kind of stuff. Because we know he's got a movie coming in 2020. They're calling it a big event film. And they were the first ones to come out with the description of it and said it's going to be North by Northwest meets Inception. Now, I know probably a lot of you guys haven't seen North by Northwest. Cole's notes. Average dude gets mistaken for some kind of secret spy, and now he's on the run for his life because of mistaken identity and all that kind of stuff. You take that kind of a concept and cross it with like a sci-fi element, kind of bewilderment kind of thing with an Inception. That sounds like something right up Christopher Nolan's alley. I mean, that sounds like something that would come straight out of the mind of a Christopher Nolan. And I know a lot of people yesterday, when they read those headlines, people who know what North by Northwest is, a Hitchcock film, by the way, and people who know Inception were like, oh, this could be really good, and got a lot of people excited. Now, it should be noted, though, that there are a couple of outlets right now that are saying that, hey guys, we're now hearing that that's not an accurate thing. Like they're saying, so we reported this, but now we're hearing it might not be accurate. But there's also one or two outlets that are saying, no, we've double checked and it is accurate. So whether this is true or not, you all got to know, take that with a grain of salt, that this report may or may not be true. Because there's some people now saying it's not. There's some people still insisting that it is. Whatever. So keep that in the back of your mind. For the sake of the discussion, though, right now, Robert, just for the sake of the conversation, you hear a description like that for the next Nolan film. What would you think about a Christopher Nolan North by Northwest meets Inception? Like, what kind of sparks in your imagination when you hear that?
Well, I mean, that's like the cinematic equivalent of, getting to second base the first time when you're in junior high school. I'm telling you.
Is that what it's like?
That's exactly what it's like. I mean, what's not to love? First of all, I love Inception. I saw it 8 times in the theater. I love Hitchcock's North by Northwest. I wrote a paper on it in college. And these are two great tastes that taste great together. I mean, what is not to love?
And you think, so how would you see something like that unfolding? Like, if you're thinking Christopher Nolan doing that, what do you think a movie like that looks like?
Well, I mean, to me, it's like, what if, first of all, the idea of who's real and what's what in North by Northwest is already interesting.
That's true.
But what if who's real and what's what put into the Inception landscape? I mean, if it's a story about the difference between reality or the Matrix or whatever, some modern take on that, somebody impersonating someone else or somebody being undercover in a world where reality is constantly being pulled out from under you, or you don't know whether you're dreaming or whether you're awake. I mean, the possibilities of that, it's very Philip K. Dick. If you read a lot of Philip K. Dick, he wrote Blade Runner. There's a lot of mind bending. What's real? What is the fabric of reality? Here comes the Adjustment Bureau to come get me. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff that I think Nolan has played with reality a lot in his films in different ways. And this seems to me to be peak Christopher Nolan. So I'm excited.
Yeah, so whether this report ends up being accurate or not, and we'll let everybody else debate that out about whether it's real or not.
Right.
Regardless, I'm just looking forward to what Christopher Nolan does next, because I quite liked Dunkirk. I know there's some people who were hoping for something different. I thought it was a brilliant film from him, and it was a little bit different than things we've seen him do before. And man, I'm excited to see what he does next. And if it is something like this, that's pretty damn exciting too.
Yeah.
All right. Ashley, let's move on to our fourth topic today. What's next?
That is so exciting though. I love both those films. I actually have both of those on DVD. So
Ooh.
Nice.
I will say, I
Nice.
hope there's a really long drunk driving scene, and then all of a sudden the cliff turns into something else or something. All right, Jeff Steinbeck. Hey, John. Hope everything is going good. While I am excited for both Shazam and Hellboy, I am a bit worried that both movies being a week apart in release will actually hurt both films. Wouldn't it have been better if they were at least 2 weeks apart, or am I overthinking this? Thanks, and keep up the great work.
Rob, we do have here. Let me just double check this here. I'm just going to open up the thing here. So we do have on Friday, October the 11th, we have. That's the wrong one I'm looking at. Sorry about that.
I was like, October?
Yeah, Friday, October 11th.
I don't want to wait till October.
No, we don't have to wait till October. So we have Hellboy and we have Shazam opening 1 week apart. These are both superhero films, man. These are both films that, while one will be R and one will be more family friendly, there's no denying that there is a large segment of this that there's going to have some crossover in the demographic they're going for. One of them is going to get hurt more than the other one. Which one do you think stands to maybe suffer a little bit more opening 1 week, just the next week apart from another major superhero film?
Well, I think Shazam's going to be a juggernaut. I mean, I really do. And I think that, look, Hellboy and Shazam's got a family audience. Hellboy's R-rated, right?
Yes.
So Hellboy's an R-rated film. So immediately your family audience is taken out of the equation pretty much. So, I just think it's a different audience, even though they're both derived from comic book properties. I do think that, like, let's take away their genre. Shazam looks like it's a comedy. Hellboy looks like it's an action horror film. So I don't think one's necessarily hurt by the other. I think that audiences that are primed to see Hellboy are already primed. Remember, Hellboy has never been a huge franchise. It's been a successful franchise, but it's not a monster franchise. Whereas Shazam, we could be talking some serious box office dollars if the movie's as good as it looks. Whereas Hellboy is the third movie in a franchise, and Shazam is the first.
Yeah, and I think I see. Well, I don't think we're going to have as many problems here as if, say, I don't know, Captain Marvel and Aquaman opened 1 week apart from each other, right? Because there are differences here between these movies. I mean, just look at this image. I mean, there's differences between these movies, but I still feel like there is enough of that crossover. There's enough people that are like you and I, Robert, where we're both very excited to see both of these films. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are into comic book movies that are just looking at these to go. I do think one's going to be hurt more than the other, and I think it's going to be Hellboy. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, the thing you so accurately pointed out, that Hellboy has never been that big of a franchise.
Right.
Like a lot of us remember the Hellboy movies fondly, but the reality is neither of those movies made a bunch of money. It's always been a smaller film. The second reason is this. Much like Alita, much like a couple of other films that start off with a bad first trailer or a first trailer that doesn't win the audience over. And we've talked about this a lot lately. You only get one chance to make a good first impression. And what I think Alita, Battle Angel, would be sitting much better right now financially had they just not put out that first trailer. Because I think the first trailer came out and a lot of people, including me, went, this looks just not good. Now, the other trailer's spectacular, and the movie's actually pretty good. But I think it suffered from that bad first impression, and it's hard to gain ground again after that. And I'm afraid that the same thing may be in play here with Hellboy, because that second trailer we just watched and talked about is great, but that first one had some people dismissing the movie immediately. And it's tough to get those people back. And now you compound that with the fact that it's going to go head-to-head against Shazam. I mean, Hellboy may end up being the better movie. We don't know. I think Shazam looks awesome. Hellboy might end up being the better movie. But personally, I'm kind of thinking that if one of these films is going to get hurt more than the other, I think it would probably end up being Hellboy. And I don't know that Shazam is going to feel more than a speed bump, like more than a minor speed bump on its road to being a really good box office success as well as being a quality movie. Whereas I think there's a little bit more danger for Hellboy. So hopefully they both do great, and hopefully they're both wonderful movies. But that's kind of the situation we find ourselves in right now. All right. Ashley, what is our final email of the day?
Guys, I have to say though that last night I just remembered that I had a dream that Tom Hanks
Uh-oh.
was Hellboy. Literally, this
What?
show is getting into my mind. Probably because Shazam, and then I was thinking Big, and then maybe Hellboy. I don't even know, but right when that image came up, I was like, "Oh my God, Tom Hanks was Hellboy in my dream last night."
Was he like the
Anyway.
most charming and kind and sweet Hellboy you could possibly imagine?
Yes, it was a totally different movie. I think he
Because
was
it's
like
Tom Hanks.
no muscle, just like it was freaking hilarious.
Okay, now I want to see Saturday Night Live do that. I want to see Saturday Night Live do Tom Hanks as Hellboy.
Yeah,
That's
he
what I want
should.
to see.
That'd be amazing. Oh my God. Okay, so the next one is from Dave T. I know you always say that box office projections will fluctuate, but now we're in the opening week of Captain Marvel, and I just read that they're now saying the movie will make around $350 million worldwide in just its first weekend. If that's if true, what does this do to all those Captain Marvel will flop theories that have been out there?
Well, I think there's a couple things to look at and keep in mind here. The first thing, and like I've seen these headlines too, I've been talking about these headlines, but you do have to keep in mind, let's throw a couple of asterisks up here. Number one, remember, tracking is not an exact science. We've had Variety a few weeks ago say that it was going to open at 100 million, while Box Office Pro was saying it was going to open at 160 million, which I thought that was just ludicrous. And Variety said 100. Now, Variety has since adjusted. Now they're saying 115 to 125. And now, anyway, so keep in mind when we're talking about these types of reports. Now, Deadline isn't some, little blog being done as a hobby. This is Deadline, one of the major trades in Hollywood. So, but still, it's a projection. And I think you need to keep that in mind, that projection, and these projections usually come within 90% accuracy, so they're usually pretty reliable. But remember, they're still just projections until the actual numbers come out. So with that being said, let's just go by what the report is saying for a second. If this movie, because we talked the other day, Rob, about how they're now saying that in China alone, it's going to open to around $90 to $95 million just in China alone. They're projecting right now in North America, it's going to have like 115 to 125 million dollar opening. I'm still sticking with 90 to 100. I'm sticking with 90 to 100. But right there, you've got 200 million just out of two countries. If this movie can actually open to say 350 million worldwide on its initial weekend drop, theoretically speaking, Rob, that means by the end of its first week, it'll be over $400 million. You're talking about a movie that will now have cleared the break-even point in just its first week. What does that do to some of those theories that were floating around out there that Captain Marvel is going to flop? It's going to be the first flop that Marvel has and all this kind of stuff. Well, it destroys those. But also keep in mind that it's not like there's this perception out there that everybody out there who has been against the Captain Marvel movie has been saying the movie will flop. Well, that's not true. I think there are a lot of people out there who have been against the Captain Marvel movie who know full well it's going to not flop. It's going to be profitable. It's going to make money. So I think there's a lot of people out there that think that. But the other thing here, Rob, is we also got to keep in mind this. There is a difference between flopping and being disappointing. So, for example, like Justice League, it made over $650 million. It more than broke even with all the extra expense they had to put into it for reshooting most of the movie. At $650 million, it's still more than broke even, and it was profitable. It's no flop. Some people like to call Justice League a flop. It wasn't a flop. It at least broke even and made actually a little bit of money. But you can fairly say that, it's still disappointing. Now, so I believe there's a window of space here, Rob, that there's where Captain Marvel becomes profitable and where it becomes good result. And I think there's a little bit of gray area in there where it could still be disappointing. I think if Captain Marvel ends up making $410 million worldwide, I think you consider that disappointing. I think if it makes $420 million worldwide, I think that's disappointing. Now, as soon as it hits 500 million or more, now you're getting into the range that I always said I thought Captain Marvel was going to make. I think Captain Marvel is going to end up making between $600 and $700 million. Other people like yourself think much, much higher than that, possibly in the $1 billion range. But I think if it just crawls over the breaking even mark, it could still be considered a disappointment at the box office. To me, once it crosses 500 million, now you're starting to get into numbers like once it hits like 515, 520, 530, now you're talking about a movie that makes at least $100 million in profit. Now you can't talk in terms of disappointment anymore. But anyway, Rob, you're looking at these numbers. What do you think of the possibilities, though, that Captain Marvel could potentially end up being a money loser, could potentially make money but still be considered disappointing, and where it actually becomes, this is a good result? Where do you see those numbers falling?
Look, I'll flat out say it. The only people that have been saying this movie is going to be a disappointment are dudes. And what I've been saying since the very beginning is that you have a whole audience of moms and their daughters who are excited about going to see this movie, that are not on geek websites, that are not bitching on the internet, that are not complaining about things, that are going to go to this movie and they're primed to enjoy it because of that image that's between us right now. There is a massive audience that is going to make this movie not only successful, but very successful. And look, I've been saying it's going to make, if you look at these intro movies, $650 million is a pretty great place to start. I mean,
yeah, that's right around where Ant-Man and Doctor Strange have come in. That seems to be the pattern for these.
That's going to be that's the beginning of this movie. And I think worldwide we're going to be looking at anywhere from between 650 to $1 billion. And I think it's going to be because it's tapping into an audience that doesn't normally turn out for these movies the first weekend, and that is the mother-daughter audience. You know, the women who are seeing, like they turned out for Wonder Woman, are seeing a character like Captain Marvel that's really, really important. The same way that Black Panther was important to another audience of people that wasn't always represented in these films. And I think that is not to be denied. And it's going to be the idea that this movie is going to flop. What is that based upon? Certainly not the Marvel Cinematic Universe numbers. It's based upon butthurt dudes on the internet complaining. That's it. There's no other reason, you know, and it's ridiculous. I don't get it. I can't wait to see this movie. I hope it's hugely successful, because if it is, that's better for all movies.
Yeah.
You know, it's better for the more opportunities of stories that we can get. I want to see a She-Hulk movie. You know, I want to see the Women of the X-Men movie. I want to see an all-female Avengers movie. Imagine how people are going to scream and yell about that. But who doesn't want to see it? I do. I want this movie to be successful, damn it.
Well,
everybody should go twice.
I think it's going to be successful. I'm not to this day, I'm not as optimistic as you. I still think it's going to come in that 600 to $700 million range. But I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I hope it makes 900 million, $1 billion. I hope it does. But I'm going to be very happy with it and satisfied if it comes in between. Again, in those introductory movies that the MCU has had, the pattern as of late has been 600 to 700 million. And
I think there's also a bit of the audience, John, that you are forgetting about entirely. Cat lovers.
Oh, God.
Cat lovers are going to turn out. They're going to turn out in droves to see this movie.
Hell yeah.
Turning out in droves. I'm one of them. So's Ashley.
Cats.
I'll be there. I'll be there with my cat. I'll bring her into the theater. No one will know.
But I'm telling you,
poster.
Goose the cat, as painful as it is for me to say, Goose the cat is a highlight in this film. That's all. I'm not going to give anything away. I'm just saying Goose the cat is a highlight in the film.
You're warming up to it, see?
This might be the first $150 million cute cat video ever made.
Possibly. That's a good way of putting it. Okay, guys. Hey, listen, that'll do it for our main topics today, but we're going to get into some live questions here in just a minute. But before we do, there are a bunch of other things going on in the world of movies and television entertainment that we may not have time to talk about as main topics, but we want to make sure you're caught up to date on everything that's going on. So here is today's reintroduction of the installment, The Movie News Feed. Check this out. First up, we all know what you really need is even more Jonas Brothers in your life. So, to meet that need, here comes Amazon Prime, which is preparing for a Jonas Brother documentary. From Engadget, while the Jonas Brothers are getting ready to hit the road for their comeback tour, cameras have begun following them around for an Amazon Prime video documentary. Fans will get an inside track on the siblings' life story, as well as their family's perspective on everything. No details were given on the project or its release date, which is expected to come later this year. Next up, Filed under the heading of Why God Why, it looks like Warner Brothers is bringing us a Hello Kitty movie. From the New York Times, Warner Brothers said on Tuesday that its New Line division and the producer Beau Flynn had persuaded the Sanrio Corporation of Tokyo, after a 5-year courtship, to entrust its $6 billion cat to the studio for a feature film. Sanrio, which created Hello Kitty back in 1974 and groomed her into a merchandising superstar, has never brought the character to global movie screens before. How you make a movie about a character with no mouth and who has never spoken in its entire existence, I'm sure will be just one of the many big challenges they're going to have making this film. Next up, one of the most celebrated comics of all time, Richard Pryor, has a documentary about his life on the way, and we now know exactly when. From Variety magazine, I Am Richard Pryor, a new documentary looking at the life of the iconic comedian and actor, will make its world premiere at the South by Southwest Film Festival on March 12th. The film will then air on Paramount Network on March 15th at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and encore on Comedy Central at 11:30 p.m. Exclusive interviews with celebrities like Tiffany Haddish, Howie Mandel, Lily Tomlin, and Jennifer Pryor will also be featured. Next up, we've all known for a while now that we finally have a new Jay and Silent Bob movie on the way, which will reteam Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. Now it's been announced that several other performers are joining the party, including Joe Manganiello, Justin Long from Tusk, and Craig Robinson from Hot Tub Time Machine, and of course, the North American version of The Office. From Joe Blow, the film will find the pair discovering that Hollywood is making a reboot of Blunt Man and Chronic, prompting them to travel across the country in order to stop it from being made all over again. And as Kevin Smith puts it, it's a movie that makes fun of sequels and remakes and reboots while being all three at the same time. And finally, Will Smith has been keeping himself busy lately, and it looks like he just added another project to his schedule. According to reports, Smith will play Richard Williams, the father of tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams, in the movie King Richard. From Variety, the film, based on a script by Zach Balin, will center on Richard Williams overcoming hardship, skepticism, controversy, and his own troubled past to instruct his daughters, starting when they were just 4 years old on the tennis courts of Compton, California. Serena and Venus Williams might be the greatest and most dominant pair of siblings in sports history. They've won a combined 30 Grand Slam singles titles and a total of 14 Grand Slams doubles titles together. That is dominance. And that'll do it for today's installment of the Movie News Feed. All right, guys, and now you are all caught up to date on all the other stuff going on in the world of movie news. By the way, a bunch of you guys were asking for the Movie News Feed to come back. Do you like that little segment? Jump in the comment section, let me know if we should continue it or whether we were just fine without it. I want to know if it was helpful to you guys. That's what's important to me. All right, we're now going to go and take some live questions. And hey, I want to let you guys know that here on the John Campea Show, we don't always have time to get around to all the live questions get sent in. But don't worry, if you send in a live question and we got to end the show before we get to it, don't worry one bit. We gather up those questions and we answer them a little bit later in the day in another video called the Companion Video. So keep your eyes open for that. So your questions will get answered if you do send them in. With that down and out of the way, Ashley, let's dive into the live questions today. What's up first?
Let's do it. First super chat is from Technovine. Back home from a solid Captain Marvel premiere, and wow, Brie Larson is great. Also, my whole theater had a standing ovation for one of the post-credit scenes.
You know, one of the things I've been saying about this movie, guys, is that, and I'm not going to get taught to say anything about it other than this. A lot of the MCU post-credit scenes are cute. They're very cute, but at the end of the day, they're not all that relevant, nor are they all that important. I believe, particularly the first post-credit scene, and there are two, but the first post-credit scene that kind of comes mid-credits is maybe the best post-credit scene they've ever done. It's certainly, I think, the most relevant post-credit scene to what's going on in the MCU they've ever done, and maybe the most important post-credit scene they've ever done. So, and it's short. It's not like it's 3 minutes long. It's short, but you're going to want to make sure you stick around, because I know some people know that post-credit scenes are coming in MCU movies, but, you know, a lot of times they're just fun little silly things, and they're not worth sticking around 5 extra minutes for. Stick around for the post-credit scenes of Captain Marvel. You will not be disappointed that you did. All right. Okay, what's next?
Donaldo Martinez. With TV shows having multiple directors, who is ultimately in charge of the overall direction of a show?
That would be the guys known as the showrunners. These, and usually they're the executive producers and writers. It's in television, it's the writers, the showrunners that have the main control. Well, why do they instead of the directors? Because a lot of times with a lot of shows, it's very, very rare where one director directs like an entire season. That's very rare. Most of these shows, every episode has a different director because they got to prep for that one episode, blah, blah, blah. So who's looking over the overall scope and the overall direction? It's the writers headed by the showrunner. And those are the people who are in charge. And those are the people, that's why in a movie where it's just one story, director kind of runs the show. In a television series, it's the writer's room that runs the show because directors only have one little piece of the puzzle that they're doing, whereas opposed to the writers who oversee the whole thing. Rob, am I missing anything there, or did that pretty much sum it up?
No, that was very, very succinct. I mean, what's really interesting is like you put it, a director who comes onto a television show is serving the vision of the showrunners and the writers, whereas a director who's working on a feature film, it's his or her vision that is shaping the direction of the movie itself.
That was a good way to put it. That was better than me. All right, what's next?
Really Tired 64. What happens first? A film cracking $1 billion at the domestic box office or one breaking $3 billion worldwide?
Well, when you consider the fact that there has been a film in recent history, Star Wars, the Force Awakens, that came damn close to making $1 billion domestically. It made like $800 or $900+ million domestically, which is by far a record that may not be touched for a while. Because it's just to put that in perspective, let me bring this up because I believe that is hundreds of millions of dollars ahead of any of its closest competition. Let me just bring up here the all-time records domestic. Okay, so you've gotten the top 5. Titanic made $659 million domestically. Avengers Infinity War made $678 million. Black Panther made $700 million. Star Wars The Force Awakens made $936 million domestically.
Whoa.
Wrap your head around that.
That's a lot.
That's crazy. So I'm going to guess, since that was a recent film, I'm going to guess the first one to happen will be a $1 billion domestically. It'll have to be something really special. Maybe it'll be Lion King, who knows? But I think that'll happen before. Because when you're talking about Infinity War that just made all the money it made, it only made $2 billion. That's like way short of $3 billion. So I think the $1 billion domestic's going to happen first. What do you think, Rob?
Again, the probably 1 billion domestic. I mean, we've got movies that could do that. I could see Lion King hitting that mark. Yeah. I really could, only because, like Star Wars, I think. I mean, every American or every North American probably went to see Force Awakens. I mean, it was a cultural event.
Yeah.
So it transcends what a movie is and becomes something that everybody needs to go see to be part of the conversation. I think Lion King might be that way because even if you were not into Disney animation, if you were a theater snob, you went and saw Lion King on Broadway.
Yeah.
Lion King is a transmedia property. And I think that everybody, my grandmother, she's no longer alive, but she would love to have seen the Lion King movie if she was here. And I think that Lion King could do it. I really think. I mean, more so, if this makes any sense, I think Lion King might hit $1 billion domestic, but not outgross a movie like Infinity War.
Yeah.
I mean, Endgame globally.
Yep, I can totally see that happening.
I could see it hit $1 billion domestic.
Yep, I'm 100% in agreement with you. All right, what's next?
John Demoto. Hey, John, agree with your sentiments about Captain Marvel. Good movie with its faults. Felt like a missed opportunity in a lot of ways. Will you be doing a spoiler discussion this Sunday?
Not this Sunday. What we've decided to do is, because I mentioned we might do a spoiler discussion on Sunday. I had a few people write saying, John, I couldn't get tickets for Friday. I couldn't get tickets for Saturday. I can only get tickets for Sunday. I won't have a chance to have seen the movie. So what we've done is we've decided to do the Captain Marvel spoiler discussion on Monday, late afternoon, early evening, whatever. And Robert Meyer Burnett is going to be doing it with me because he will have seen it by then.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to give everybody that extra day to make sure they can have a chance to watch it so they can participate in the spoiler discussion as well. So yes, Monday afternoon, I'll let you know an exact time when we're ready. But Monday afternoon is when we're going to do our open spoiler discussion. So once you guys see the movie, make sure you come and join us for that as well. All right, what's next?
Ben Rainier, do you think Disney should ban press for Endgame premiere just to make sure spoilers don't get out there? I know that would suck for you guys.
No, and the thing is, even if they banned press from the premiere, guess what? There are often press screenings before the premiere. The fact of the matter is, a bunch of the press, much like it was with Captain Marvel, like I didn't see it till the premiere, but there were a bunch of people who already had seen it like 2 weeks ago because they did advanced press screenings for the press. Now, they might push that off a little bit later because unfortunately, and I have no idea why, but a predominant, who I'm not going to name, a predominant YouTuber apparently gave away a major spoiler of Captain Marvel already. And look, it's just, I've been constantly urging fellow YouTubers, don't put out spoiler material but it's open in this one country on the other side of the planet. Well, don't put out spoiler material, please, guys, be courteous to the people who in the North American market. Don't put out spoiler stuff until at least it opens domestically. Like, at least wait till then. But anyway, what they might do is not show it to press like 2.5 weeks in advance like they did with Captain Marvel. They might shorten that window. But a lot of the press are going to see it outside of the premiere anyway. They will do press screenings because it has worked so well for them with their other films. So it is more important to Disney and to every studio to make as much money as possible than it is to keep the spoilers secret. I mean, it's a business. So they want to try to accomplish both. And believe me, they beg and plead with the press not to share any spoilers. And I think for the most part, the press does a pretty good job keeping it to themselves. Like, no major spoilers came out, Rob. When the social media embargo lifted over a week ago, no major spoilers came out. The press did a really good job of keeping it all under wraps, not giving anything major away. And I think that's just a good relationship between studios and press. And they just all know it's for the best interest of the fans. And so I don't think there's any need to do that, and I don't think they will. All right, what's next?
KW Garrett 83. According to your YouTube playlist, today is the 500th episode of the John Campea Show. Cheers to the next 500. Now, rank all 24 Bond movies off the top of your head. Just kidding.
Again, so KW is yet another somebody who is writing to me today to let me know that it's the 500th episode today. Again, that may be right or wrong. I have no idea. I have not been keeping track. But if it is, I guess I should... You know what? To celebrate, I'm going to go out and get myself some ice cream. Not that I need a big excuse.
You want me to rank the 24 Bond films?
No, that'll just take too long because I know you could. I know you could. I have no doubt you could do it like that in your sleep, but we don't have time for that. All right, what's next?
John, you're so wild. You're like, I'm going to go get some ice cream.
I'm a party animal. I'm going to get a Diet Coke and some ice cream. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Technovine. Also, King Shark Gorilla Grodd or Grodd. Grodd. Fight in the Flash.
Which is unbelievable, dude. It is amazing. They even did a promo ad for it.
No, I haven't seen it. Really?
Oh. I mean, this is why, again, I say we live in great times. Who would have thought Gorilla Grodd and King Shark would, not only would they have been already in episodes, but that they would fight?
Yeah, in a TV show. Not even in a feature film where you have the budgets for it to do it properly, but in a TV show. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things I like about this Flash show. I love how they have used Gorilla Grodd in the show. I always get a big kick when Gorilla Grodd. And I remember the first time King Shark popped, I'm like, they are not doing King Shark. They're not doing King Shark. Yep, there's King Shark.
One of my oldest friends in LA, Eric Wallace, is a writer-producer on The Flash. And
nice.
He has loved King Shark for decades. I mean, he must be having, I can't even imagine. I just love the joy that he must be feeling now. I can't even imagine what that is.
Well, I'll look forward to that. I'm looking forward to watching. All right, what's next?
I'm so unfamiliar with The Flash, obviously. Do I need to watch this or?
It is a fun show. It's a fun little, it's very easy to watch. It's a CW show, so that tells you a lot. But it's a fun little show. It's one I did not think was going to work, and it has, and I'm actually a big fan of it.
All right. I'll check it out. Tyler Yeats, Brightburn trailer number 2 just dropped. Whoa.
Ooh, I haven't seen that yet, but I gotta watch it. So apparently the second trailer's dropped. Look, very, very few trailers have had the impact on me like Brightburns did, because I had never even heard of it. I mean, I knew that James Gunn was working on something. It was going to be blah, 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 but I had no idea really what the premise was. And that first Brightburn trailer starts with, my God, this is just a Superman ripoff. It's just a Superman. And then the twist happens in the trailer. I'm like, and I'm like,
dude,
oh, so good.
They keep the Man of Steel font running all the way through the trailer. And it is, as the kids say, fire.
Fire. And so if a second trailer's dropped, I'm going to be checking that out as soon as we're done the show today. That's for sure. All right, what's next?
Right. The only people I can see stop Thanos is the Winchesters. They basically have stopped every being on the planet.
The Winchesters in Supernatural, they have fought demons, and then it got bigger. They literally fought Satan himself. And then if that wasn't enough, they had to fight God's sister, Amara, do that. Then they had to fight Leviathan, and then they had to fight, generals of hell, and then they had to fight archangels, and then, why not? Get Sammy and Dean in here. They'll figure out a way. They'll come up, they'll conjure some kind of spell to beat Thanos. Bring on the Winchesters from Supernatural. Absolutely. All right, what's next?
Jordan Solis. In today's society, if people love a film, it's a 10, and if people hate a film, I give that film a 0. It seems to be 10 or 0, never in between.
Yeah, Rob, that's one of the things I've actually complained a lot about with our film fandom today, is we live in a 10 and 0 society, and that's it. I've referenced this a lot, where nobody has any sense of anything in between. And it's one of the reasons why I stopped giving numerical scores to because back in the day, I used to give movies rankings out of 10. And I say, I give this a 6.5 out of 10, or I give this a 9 out of 10, whatever, right? But the problem with that is, first of all, a number means something different to everybody. Like, I would give a good, solid movie that I quite enjoyed a 7 out of 10. It's a solid movie, 7 out of 10. And inevitably what I get is 7. So you hated it then. Why'd you hate it? Why not a 10? And that's the main thing. Everything today is like, that's good. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. Or I didn't like that. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And that's all anybody knows how to do. And it just started to bug me so much that I just stopped giving numerical values to any movie reviews, because it became inconsequential. Because I could say 7 out of 10, and to somebody that means it's terrible because it's not a 10. And to somebody else, it means it's really solid. To somebody else, it means something else. So it's like, you know what? I'm just going to review a movie and talk about the movie, and I'm not going to give it a number score because they seem pointless. And I wish people would get over this 10, 10, 10, 0, 0, 0 mentality, because it really bugs me.
It bugs me too. I mean, The Godfather's a 10. Shawshank Redemption is a 10. I think if you really want to go on a real scale, even a movie I love as much as Infinity War isn't a 10.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like an 8. It's not Godfather. And you gotta, and there are B movies like The Hidden, or Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. They're never going to be 10s, but they're really solid 6s and 7s, and that's good.
Yeah,
they're not supposed to be 10s.
I have probably, in all of my years of doing this, and out of all the films I've seen, I think maybe 11 films I've given a 10 to. Seriously, like 11. And because I just think people hand out 10s way too easily. Like, way too easily. A 10 should be transcending the medium, should be transcending generations, should be like omniscient when it comes to the pantheon that it inhabits. That is what a 10 is. And I've only given it to like 11 films in my life. And then you'll talk to a lot of film fans, and they'll run off a list of 250 movies they've given 10s to. And it's like, so what's the point of a numerical score if everybody looks at numerical scores differently? So anyway, I agree with you, Jordan. I 100% agree with you. All right, what's next?
Yeah, it could be a 6 in LA, but like a 10 in Iowa. That was like the hot girl joke.
Yes.
Digo21, the writer of Gods in Egypt, Dracula Untold, and The Last Witch Hunter wrote the upcoming Morbius movie. Yikes.
Yep, it's always a scary thing when you start looking at the different people. Now, I'm going to put more faith in the director, because, you can get a director that takes a script now. That does cause some concern, absolutely. But you know what? I like what they did with Venom. I had fun with Venom, and I know a lot of people did. And so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt until I see it.
Dude, I'm a Gods of Egypt apologist.
Really? Oh, I wish I could be.
Gods of Egypt is not about Egypt. It's a historical movie about the planetoid from Dark City. That's how you have to look at it. Alex Proyas directed Dark City. Gods of Egypt is a historical epic that deals with the history of Dark City. I mean, Jeffrey Wright pulls the sun across the sky with a chariot, with a rocket-powered chariot in Gods of Egypt. I mean, come on.
Yeah. No, look, I've never thought Gods of Egypt was a movie about Egypt. I just always thought it was a movie about how to make a bad movie. But that's just
it's
me.
awesome.
And it has its defenders. Why not?
I have a 3D Blu-ray of it. Would you be surprised by that?
Oh, my God. You know what? No, I wouldn't. Wouldn't be surprised. All right, what's next?
I'm now so happy to see Mr. Nobody because I feel like I see the cover of that all the time with his white T-shirt, like, you know, looking to the side with his short hair, and I always skip it. So now I will watch it, Rob. I'm upset. Jared Harris and Tyrese joined Morbius. Thoughts?
Well, it's funny. We were just talking about Jared Harris the other day. I like it. By the way, I'm watching The Expanse now. I just started watching The Expanse. I didn't dig the first episode. I'm now on like episode 4, and I'm getting into it. It
just keeps going, getting better and better and better.
And Jared Harris pops up in that, and it's like I had no idea he was there. Really indifferent about Tyrese joining. I don't feel anything overly positive nor anything overly negative about it. Jared Harris joining it sounds intriguing, so they're shooting and away they go. I hope the movie turns out okay. All right, what's next?
Give Luigi a ring. Hey guys, last movie that made you cry. Mine was Inside Out, but in my defense, I was very hungover. Appreciate the hard work you do. Keep it up.
I don't think. Wow, your dog's upset.
No, it's just the visitor.
Oh, the visitor. I had. I honestly, I can't remember the last one. I've only had like 4 or 5 movies in history make me actually cry. Like I've had a number make me go, but they actually make me cry. The last one might have been Life is Beautiful. Maybe I'd have to think of them in order. What about you, Rob?
Well, you know, whenever I talk about movies that make me cry, my go-to is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Whenever I watch Star Trek II, but I haven't teared up. I haven't teared up in a movie in a long time. Sorry about my dog, Gilbert. But yeah, he's making me cry right now. But I don't tend to cry in movies. You know, I think
are dead inside.
I might have cried in Never Let Me Go. If you haven't seen Never Let Me Go,
yeah,
it's one of the finest science fiction films. That movie kills me at the end.
That one's good.
I tear up.
What about you, Ashley? Do you have one that made you cry?
I mean, I always cry in a lot of movies, but I can't. I think I got teary-eyed in A Star Is Born, which would be the last one. But the last movie I think I sobbed in, which is rare. I don't usually sob. Would be Room. Like I was like tears coming down my face the whole movie almost. So
yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
All right.
Probably that.
What's next?
I cried. I saw Braveheart when I was younger, and I just remember taking a shower and just sobbing over Braveheart. So TMI. Okay, so the next one is from Aaron H. Don't spoil, but how good are the Captain Marvel post-credit scenes?
Well, as I was kind of mentioning a little bit earlier, I think the one is probably the most important post-credit scene they've ever done. I think the one is outstanding. The second one is not nearly as important, but you're going to want to see it. I got a kick at it, and I quite enjoyed it, and I think you're going to want to see it. But yeah, it's particularly, like, if you really got to go, if you got to look at your watch and the movie's over and say, I really got to get out of here, then you can probably go after the first post-credit scene. But if you got the time, I would stick around for the second one because it's quite cute. All right, what's next?
Gabriel Reed, I hope Brightburn blows us away.
Me too. Look, when I love a trailer, man, that sets me up for disappointment. But this thing looks so great. I can't wait to watch the second trailer. What I will do as soon as we're done watching the show. Fingers crossed. All right, what's next?
James Welsh, Alita just passed 350 million.
Yeah, which still means it's losing money. But like I said on the show last week, I said, look, I still believe there are several paths here that Alita can get to the break-even point. And even if it doesn't, I still think there are some paths here that Alita can get a sequel made. I enjoyed Alita. I had a good fun with it. And I'd like to see what they do next. I hope they, make better dialogue and just don't try to do that terrible love interest again. But I'd like to see what they do with the next one. Here's hoping they can get to it. And it's getting closer to breaking even. It's getting closer. It may not happen. It may. Let's keep our eyes on it. All right, what's next?
Kyle Starr, Rob, Game of Thrones or Endgame? You can only see one.
Well, fortunately, I don't have to pick. But you know what? I mean, if I had to pick...
I know what you're going to say.
I'd go Game of Thrones.
No.
It's longer. It's more
I
entertainment.
100% thought you would say that.
I gotta go Thrones, man. I got 10 years, a decade. Well, I guess I have a decade invested in both.
The MCU,
But
yeah.
I've read enough comics in my life that I could extrapolate what's going to happen in Endgame. But Game of Thrones, man, I gotta see it.
All right.
I gotta see it.
Color me shocked. I never would have thought you'd say that. All right. What's next?
And talk about some evil characters when we were talking about Maleficent. I mean, Game of Thrones stocked with them. It's like children killers, people killing pregnant women. It's insane. Patrick Conway, you think Loki will be a true supervillain show or...
No.
Or wait, does it go on? Or the anti-heroic show? I hope Loki do some bad shit.
No, I don't think he's going to be a villain. Remember, in Thor, when we get to the first Thor movie, he's not really a villain. I mean, it's not until he feels betrayed and unappreciated by his father and blah, blah. And up until that moment, him and Thor were brothers. He was mischievous. He did some stupid stuff, but he wasn't evil per se, you know? So no, I don't anticipate that it will be a supervillain show, not in the least. All right, what's next?
Suthius85. Hey guys, my friends drive me crazy when they don't judge certain movies on their own merits, e.g. remakes, reboots, and live-action versions of animations. They dismiss them completely, letting nostalgia cloud their judgment.
Yeah, that drives me crazy too. I think that's completely unfair. When you go into a movie that's, say, a remake or whatever, the comparison is fair. It's fair to make a comparison, but first start with just judge the movie on its own feet. Don't go, because I've known some friends of mine go like, that movie's bad. Why was it bad? Well, it's not as good as the original. That doesn't mean it was bad. It could have still been really good. The original, whichever original we're talking about, was like a 9 out of 10. That was a good, solid 7 out of 10. Well, it's not as good as the original, so it's bad. No, it's not bad. Judge a movie on its own merits first. It's fair then to draw comparisons, yes, but first start with evaluating a movie on its own merits. Rob, do you come across people who do this a lot?
I do. And I absolutely believe that movies should be, based on their own merits. And especially when, you have a remake that's so vastly different from the original, like John Carpenter's The Thing, for instance. And I judge I never watch a movie and think about another movie when I'm making up my own mind about what I think about it. I always base a movie on what it is. I never think, well, it's not as good or bad as this other movie. What does the other movie have to do with the movie that we're discussing? It doesn't make the movie we're discussing any better or any worse. So
yeah, start with having discussion about the movie. And then later go, okay, now that we've established what I thought about the movie, now let's talk about how it compares to this other one. That's totally fair, but you got to start there, and too many people get that ass backwards, I think. Yeah. So you raise a good point, Suthius. All right, what's next?
Brian Esparza made me laugh when I saw a comment on Rotten Tomatoes Instagram saying Wonder Woman will always be the better movie, and they claim they've seen a pirated version.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the amount of... It's stuff like this that really brings out the idiots in the world. And it's like idiots say idiotic things. So, whatever. All right. What's next?
Curtis Lopez. Did you see that the new Green Lantern issue honored Schnepp?
Yes. Actually, it's funny because just before we started this, Robert and I brought this up. And let me bring this over here. Hold on a second. Because I actually grabbed this graphic earlier. And I'll bring this up now. So here is the graphic that he's talking about. So what's the artist's name again?
Liam Sharp.
Yeah, Liam Sharp. He's the artist for this Green Lantern #5, and he put on about how he decided to incorporate into the background something to tribute John Schnepp. And if you look, the sword on the hilt of the sword of the giant silhouette in the background there, that's clearly Schnepp, but on the hilt of the sword, he's got a cat because John was a big cat guy. John loved cats, and I did see that, and that's really, really something special. And it's, I mean, there's no mistaking it either. I mean, we know it is Schnepp because the artist has said so, but you just look at that, like there's no mistaking that, right, Rob? I mean, that's clearly what we're looking at.
Mr. John Schnepp in all of his glory. I mean, what a great tribute to him. He would have loved that so much, and he was a big fan of Liam Sharp's art as well. So. Yeah. What a tribute. What a tribute.
Often talked about his art as well. All right. What's next?
Abraham Asaf. The new Spider-Man.
How it should have ended.
Thank you. Is a must watch. So funny.
Look, How It Should Have Ended puts out a lot of really good, funny stuff. I have not seen this one, but I am intrigued to watch it because I like watching all their stuff. Their Lord of the Rings How It Should Have Ended stuff is always great too. Like the Lord of the Rings stuff. I remember one of them is like, wow, we've got this long journey. And then they just fly, then it cuts to them flying on the eagles and dropping the ring from 1,000 feet into the thing. And then they're going, man, would you have imagined how difficult it would have been if we walked here? Walked here? Why would we have done that? I mean, it's so good. It's so good. They do some great stuff over there. All right, what's next?
David Willard, did you guys see the Green Lantern tribute to John Schnapp? I love it. It made me tear up. Definitely going to buy this issue.
Yeah, I haven't bought an issue of Green Lantern in a long time. I'm going to have to own a physical copy of that. I think I'm going to have to go get that. And like I said, we just talked about that, David, but yeah, it's really, really nice. It even, we're getting close to a year since John passed away. And it's nice that the tributes keep coming. So that's always good to see. All right, what's next?
Curtis Lopez, how can Maleficent be Mistress of Evil if she was a hero in the first damn movie?
Well, see, Curtis, that's exactly what I was bringing up earlier. That's why I think there is an unfortunate probability that Mistress of Evil, it's not Maleficent, the Mistress of Evil. It's Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, much like Avengers Endgame, and I think the Mistress of Evil is going to be the antagonist of the movie. I hope I'm wrong. Nobody's told me this. I'm just speculating, but it's because of that exact same thing you just mentioned, Curtis. She wasn't bad in the first one, so why is she suddenly bad now? I hope they turn her bad, but I'm telling you, Rob, I think the Mistress of Evil is a different character.
You might be right.
I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's what they're going to do. All right, what's next?
Hardy Buck 4, Man of Steel death count thousands, leading to controversy and complaints. Infinity War's death count half the world, not one complaint. Ironic.
Well, by the way, and I think the DCU eventually came out and said like the death toll in Man of Steel was hundreds, but whatever. There's a lot of destruction in Man of Steel. Yeah. So, it's funny. I didn't see the comments. Well, wait a minute. Why didn't the Avengers stop Thanos? Trillions of beings died. Why didn't they stop him? Well, they tried to stop him. And that's the same thing. It always drives me crazy about, Superman let General Zod, destroy half the city. He didn't let him destroy half the city. He was trying to stop him. But it's Zod, a guy with the power of the gods who has been a trained military dude his whole life, and Superman just found out he was Superman yesterday. Let's cut the guy some slack.
This was an extinction. It was an extinction level event. The Kryptonians were going to wipe off all of humanity from the planet Earth. They set up a world engine in the Indian Ocean. I mean, the kind of havoc that they were wreaking was it was an Armageddon asteroid that basically hit the Earth, and Superman stopped it single-handedly. Yeah,
he was trying to wipe out all of humanity, and a couple of hundred and half a city destroyed. That's a pretty good day. The way I kind of imagine it, Rob, is like, okay, I'm stuck in a burning building and I'm pinned down and I'm going to die. Some dude runs into the building, gets me out, but my baby toe gets cut off in the process because of the way it was pinned, but he gets me out of the building, I'm alive. And he pulls me out and I go, you're an idiot. I lost a toe, you moron. Why didn't you get me out with my toe? How dare you? And meanwhile, the guy who just saved my life is like, what? That's the people complaining about that Superman let people die in Man of Steel. He stopped the extinction of the human race, and everyone wants to complain about a half-destroyed city. I've never got it. Where's my frickin' toe? Where is it, Rob? Where's my toe?
I don't know.
All right, let's move on. What's next?
Give Luigi a ring. Hey, Rob, how's Bob today?
I don't understand that. Do you?
What about Bob?
Oh, what about?
I don't know.
That's a nice response, man. That's a good response. Yeah. All right, what's next?
Is this corn hand chucked? It's one of my favorite lines. Lee Edworthy. Have you seen the tweet Jared Leto put up about Morbius? He just finished first week of filming. He even posted a photo as well.
All right, so I'm going to guess you didn't check. You weren't here for the very beginning of the show. We did, yes. We talked about it, brought up the image. I like the image too. I mean, obviously, it's not giving anything away. Although, even just from what we do see of Jared Leto, that's got Lestat written all over it, I think, in kind of a way. But, so we did talk about that earlier in the show. I do like the look of it. So here's hoping. Here's hoping. All right, what's next?
Carl Adams, with Disney Plus coming, is it time for a Squirrel Girl and Great Lakes Avengers series?
Look, just everybody seems to think that if they're doing things on television, that means, oh, everything's cheap and easy to do.
Right.
There's a reason they're doing things with these high-profile, highly recognizable characters like Falcon and Winter Soldier, the Vision and Scarlet Witch, Loki. I mean, there's a reason they're coming out of the gate with these types of characters. But, you know, so Great Lake Avengers, stuff like I don't see them spending money on that. But Squirrel Girl is a character we've heard rumblings about for a while. Like a lot of little whispers about Squirrel Girl for a while. So I don't know. I'll be straight up. I'm not interested in a Squirrel Girl movie. I'm just not. Or any type of a Squirrel Girl show or anything. I'm just not. But then again, I wasn't interested in Black Lightning, and then I watch it, and now I can't get enough of it. So maybe it could be like, do you see them doing anything like Squirrel Girl or Great Lake Avengers?
Because it depends. They could do a Squirrel Girl show to appeal, to a different demographic. I think it'd be great to do a show like that. They could do anything. I mean, if it's got a great creator behind it, great casting, great writing, you could make any show great. I mean, I tried watching the show Ashley talked about. Is it Pen 15?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
Did you love it?
The third episode of that, I felt dirty watching that episode.
Yes.
But I was like,
what's the
How
idea?
amazingly talented is Maya, though? I mean, that girl, I'm so glad that she has a platform to act on because she just gets better and better and better.
When you told me about this show, I'm like, what? How is this going to appeal to me? And I have to admit that after the first episode, I was like, what? But then I saw the two of them on a talk show, and I kept going. And I'm like, if this show can make me laugh.
First of all, stop. What show are you talking about?
Pen 15.
Pen 15.
Right. And what's the basic gist of it?
Ashley?
Oh, well, it's about two women. Well, okay, it's about two girls in 7th grade, but really they're played by two 30-year-old women. And then it's in the world of 7th and 8th graders. So
and everybody else is 7th and 8th graders.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic to women, especially around my age. Like, we are all identifying strongly with this show, and they just nail the world so well of that time period and what's going on in girls' lives in that time. But like, guys think it's funny too. It's just so well done.
The third episode was all about Maya's character discovering masturbation, and I felt like I was dirty after watching it.
What?
But it's
Is it a
so
Netflix
funny.
show?
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Is it Netflix?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
Hulu.
Or yeah, Hulu.
Hulu. All right,
Yeah.
I'll have to keep my eye open for it. Okay, what's
But
next?
if that show can work, Squirrel Girl can work.
There you go.
Stubble McShave. My problem with the new SW trilogy is that they removed an amazing EU and replaced it with something mediocre. I recognize that this is a very subjective view.
Well, also, Stubble, what you're missing is the EU was never in. The EU was never real. That's the thing that a lot of people seem to forget. And I remember when they first announced that they were getting rid, they weren't getting rid of it. They were just officially stating the extended universe isn't canon. But it was never canon. And that's, I remember in the very first, years and years ago when it was that first came out and Disney had first taken them over, and a lot of people were very upset that they, lowered the status. No, they didn't. The EU stuff was never canon. It never was, which meant it was never real. So what Disney did, now I don't like everything that Disney's done with Star Wars, but what Disney did was, because Lucasfilm had this totally ass-stupid, convoluted system of levels of canon. There was G canon, which was just the movies, and that G stood for George. So G level was real canon. And then they had like B canon and C canon, and they each had different levels of authority, but essentially none of them were actually real. Anything other than G canon wasn't real. And the EU was not G canon. The EU was never canon in the first place. And all Disney did, at least in this one thing, was clarified it for everybody. And they changed the name of it from Extended Universe, I believe, to Legends, I think is what they called it. They changed the status of those stories to Legends. They took away the silly, ridiculous, idiotic levels of canon thing that Lucasfilm had, because that just confused people. And they say, no, there's canon, and then there's Legends. And the Legends stuff, which was the EU, was never canon in the first place. It never was.
But
So,
if I might just chime in, the stories they told in the EU post Return of the Jedi were pretty great. I mean, starting with the Thrawn trilogy, even the Dark Empire comics, and what were in those books as far as stories go, were, I think, what Stubble is saying, and I agree with him, far, far better Star Wars stories and more imaginative than what we've received with the last two Skywalker saga films.
I'm iffy on that. I mean, look, my favorite Star Wars novels of all time is the Thrawn trilogy. That is my all-time favorite thing of all time. But again, they didn't get rid of it. It was never there in the first place. That's the thing. Like, Lucasfilm was always very clear, the Thrawn trilogy is not canon to the movies. It's not there. So, and by the way, they're still there. You can still pick up and read the Thrawn trilogy. You can read the Uzang Vong stuff. You can read all the different, you can read Rogue Squadron. You can read whatever you want. It's all still there. And it's not been, relegated by Disney to anything other than what it already was. It never was considered real by Lucasfilm before or after the Disney.
But they did a good job keeping those EU books in continuity of themselves, and it was like,
to a degree, there were some massive problems.
Well, sure, but for the most part, I mean, I followed along a lot of those books, and they really. There was a joy and there was a fascination and there was an honoring of the Star Wars universe the way that they haven't done since Disney's been making Skywalker saga movies.
Oh, I disagree. I think The Force Awakens is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And let's not forget, in the EU, you know how they killed Chewbacca in the EU?
I know.
You know how they killed Chewbacca? Tell everybody, Rob, how they killed Chewbacca.
I don't remember exactly. I'm trying to think.
I'll tell you exactly how they killed Chewbacca. They hit him with a moon.
Right, that's right.
They literally hit him with a moon, and that's how they killed Chewbacca.
Well, if you're going to take out a character,
reading it
what
and being
book
like,
was that in? I'm stuck on which.
It's the one who's because the kids were still down, and he was helping Han rescue the kids, and he couldn't get up. The Empire had set up a thing where they were going to kind of destroy the population on this world by slamming a moon into it, and Chewbacca died shaking his fists at this moon coming on him, going, "Rrr," and they killed him with the moon. I'm trying to remember the actual name of the book.
I'm stuck on it. I don't remember the book.
I still remember reading the book and putting the book down and going, "Are you serious?" But whatever. But there's a number of stuff like that in the books. But again, my only point is not to dispute that there wasn't some great stuff. Some of the Rogue Squadron stuff was terrible, but some of it was actually pretty good. I'm not disputing like the quality of the EU stuff, not at all. I'm just saying Disney didn't get rid of it. It was never there in the first place. That's the thing. Like there's this perception out there that the EU stuff used to be considered canon. No, it wasn't. It was never considered canon by Lucasfilm. And that's just the only thing. So just keep that in mind. Just keep that in mind, that it was never canon at all in the first place. So there you go. And by the way, had George Lucas not sold to Disney, his next movie was completely wiping away the EU as well. Because Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher talked about, when George Lucas sat down with them, first started talking about the idea of coming back to do a Star Wars Episode 7. He talked to them about that, and it completely swept everything that was in the EU completely away, other than these children would have existed. So you had I think the Solo twins were going to be a part of it and all that kind of stuff, but like all the other stuff, like the Thrawn trilogy wasn't going to be acknowledged. Like a whole bunch of stuff was just going to be swept away anyway. Although I do think they should have stuck with the Solo twins. I think they should have stuck with because I think that would have fit in the universe. But anyway, I'm getting off on a big tangent here. We're running out of time, and we spent far too much time on this one topic. That's my fault. All right, what is next?
Dan Ketchum, which was better, Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel?
I put them on par with each other. I think, like when I think of the DCEU, I think the upper echelon of the DCEU is Man of Steel, to me. Then there's a next level down with good quality, and that's Wonder Woman to me. Same with over on Marvel for me. I think you got your upper echelon, your Winter Soldier, your Avengers, things like that. And then you got your next level down that'll have like really good films like Doctor Strange, like Ant-Man, like Black Panther to me. And I would put Captain Marvel in there. So I kind of have Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel, although they're very different films from each other. Very different films from each other. But I roughly equivalently, I think I enjoyed them both equally. I think that's how I would answer that. All right, what's next?
Stubble McShave, what did you think of the new Tolkien trailer?
I like the new trailer for Tolkien. I think it just dropped last night or this morning. I
Yeah.
can't remember. Gave you a lot more of what the movie's going to be. Very, very little, a lot less references to Lord of the Rings stuff. I really focused really more on the life. I got to tell you, I was fascinated by it. I'm really curious to see this. Do you have a chance to check it out, Rob?
Yeah, and I feel the same way. It was way better than that first trailer, and I mean, I thought it was strange to like tie in a Tolkien bio to actual images of battles in Middle Earth. You know, considering in his life he never saw those, he imagined them. So, yeah, it looks really good.
What's next?
Lee Edworthy, I'm a big Supernatural fan. Do you think there's a possibility we might get a movie?
Nah, I don't think so. I would love a movie. I'm a huge Supernatural fan, but the reality is this. There are enough people who watch it for a CW show, which, remember, the scale by which CW needs, the type of ratings the CW needs to keep a show on the air is different from what, say, ratings an NBC show needs to get to stay on the air. There's simply not enough people to watch the show. There simply aren't enough people to watch the show. And you can't make a compelling business argument that a Supernatural movie would do well. So while I would love to see it, I don't think there's any chance in hell we'll get one. I hope I'm wrong, but I really don't think there's a chance. All right, what's next?
Roman Bryant, if Joker is the success we are hoping it is, do you think this will lead to more villain movies like Sony making a Green Goblin solo?
I think there's a lot of possibilities that open up if Joker is a big success. And when I say big success, I mean audiences and critics love it and it makes money. It doesn't have to be an $800 million film, but, makes $500 million or something like that. It opens a number of possible doors. Number one, it'll intrigue Warner Brothers even more about the whole notion of Elseworld movies that completely standalone, isolated from the rest of the universe. It opens up the possibilities of some villains things. And I'll tell you what else. It's not just Warner Brothers that's keeping an eye on how Joker does. It's Marvel. Marvel's going to watch very closely how the audience responds to a Joker movie, a standalone Elseworld movie that focuses on a villain. They're going to pay really close attention to this. And I think other studios are going to pay close attention to this too. So I do think it opens doors. Guarantees nothing, but it opens possibilities. How do you see it, Rob?
Oh, I agree with you. One of the things I would love to see is how Marvel took, one of my favorite things Marvel used to do was their what if comics. Like, what if Conan the Barbarian was in the 20th century? And then they would do crazy team-ups. Like, what if the Spider-Man and the Hulk went off on a mission? And they could actually brand Marvel movies that were out of the MCU, but they could tell fun stories that we wouldn't normally get in the MCU about our favorite beloved characters. And to a certain extent, I think that's what they're going to kind of do with their streaming shows, even though those will be canonical to the MCU. But it would be nice to see certain character movies made that don't have to tie in, so you could maybe do explorations of these characters that wouldn't normally fit in the MCU. I think that's exciting. I think that's an exciting proposition, and they've got to do something different, because what are they going to do? More MCU movies for 10 years? I mean, that'll be great, but I don't know. I mean, it can't last forever.
All right, we got time for, let's take 4 more. We'll just get through these next 4 really quick.
Okay, Jordan Handley, crazy how the voice of Jar Jar Binks nearly jumped off the Brooklyn Bridge to end his life. This is a prime example of toxic Star Wars fandom.
Yeah, and so this has been around for a while. So Ahmed Best, who did the physical representation and the voice for Jar Jar Binks, which, by the way, I've never understood why anybody blamed him. He was bringing to life what the director told him to bring to life. It's not like he wrote Jar Jar Binks. It's not like he wrote the character or anything like that. And the type of abuse they used to get back then was nothing compared to what the type of abuse that gets lashed out today. It was nothing compared to it. But, Twitter wasn't a thing and all that kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. But he experienced the something that was relatively new at the time. He experienced really harsh backlash from a lot of people. And I have never understood, look, I hate the prequels, but they're just movies. You don't go after, start going after and attacking individual people for things that aren't their fault. Like if you think a movie's crap, say it's crap. You thought a character was crap, say the character's crap. Don't start getting personal against the people who make the movies. Don't start getting personal against the guy who's just acting in the movie. If you don't think he's a good actor, say I don't think you're a good actor. That's all fair. But the type of abuse and stuff that he used to take was crazy. I've heard some stories about people who'd see him in the street and recognize him in the street and like say awful things to him and things like that. And then today it's like times 5. It's like times 5 today because everybody's this brave keyboard warrior who just can sit down and type whatever shit they want to write and just stay safely behind the anonymity of their little keyboard, like the little wusses they are. It's really sad. And it's really sad things to see and really sad things to read. And I've never understood that type of behavior. So it's really too bad because from all accounts, I've never met Ahmed. But my buddy Paul Enns, who was like the director of LucasArts for a while, and he worked at Skywalker, and he worked with Lucasfilm, and he was actually produced a number of the special features that were on the DVDs and things like that. He once told me that if I remember, I think it was Paul who told me this. He said, Ahmed is like, you almost don't think he's real because he's so sweet. Like he's just so nice that you almost don't think he's real, and he's real. And it's just always sad when you hear about things like that. Or the things that happened to Kelly Marie Tran, who's just like the biggest sweetheart in the world and all this kind of stuff. It's unfortunate. Anyway, 3 more questions. Let's get through these next 3.
The Insight. Willow is finally out on digital. I would love to see a remake of this underrated classic.
Mad Mod again.
The Ebert disc.
Oh,
the dragon.
I love Willow.
Named after Siskel and Ebert.
I love Willow, and it's funny listening to Ron Howard talk about stories like of things that happened on set of Willow, which are like really funny. I won't repeat them here, but look up some of Ron Howard's stories of things that went on in the set of Willow. It's some hilarious stuff. You should check it out, and I agree. I got to get my hands on that. All right, 2 more questions.
Ryan Lohner, just watched Amistad on your rec.
Nice.
The one take speech was a big reminder why Anthony Hopkins is one of the all-time greats.
It's funny because we were just talking yesterday about Djimon Hounsou, who is, first of all, he just kind of lives in comic book movies now because Djimon Hounsou is actually in Aquaman. You don't see his face, but he's the voice of the fisherman. He's the king of the fisherman people. He is in both Shazam movies, so he's in Captain Marvel, and he is in Warner Brothers Shazam. He's just living all those. And he was really introduced to the world in Amistad. And Amistad, and a lot of people are surprised when I say this, but it is my all-time favorite Steven Spielberg movie. I love that movie, and it's making us free. I mean, when Djimon starts, there's a passion he puts into that, and Anthony Hopkins is so good in it, and it's just an amazing movie. Rob, I don't know that you and I have ever talked about Amistad. Have you ever had a chance to watch that?
Oh yeah, no, I'm a fan of all of the Spielberg. I call them the historical epics. Right. And Amistad was like there was well, you had Empire of the Sun, you had Color Purple, you have Amistad, you have Catch Me If You Can is one. Certainly Lincoln, which War Horse. I love what he brings to these films, and I think Amistad, a lot of people say it's preachy, but I thought it was powerhouse filmmaking, and there are movies that I've come back to again and again. Like I remember seeing Empire of the Sun for the first time and thinking it was overdone, but it's to me, it's become one of my favorite Spielberg movies. Amistad as well. And Amistad, Lincoln, and Empire of the Sun are 2 movies or 3 movies that it's my favorite historical Spielberg trilogy to watch. And they shift positions as to which one I think is best.
Well, I'm really glad that you got on that and watched that, man. So thanks for sending the question. All right, final question today. What's next?
Lee Edworthy, congrats on the 500th episode. Keep up the great work.
Oh, well, I thank you, Lee, very much. Yeah, it's, again, it's something I wasn't keeping track of, but apparently this is the 500th episode, so thank you to everybody for supporting the show and giving us people to talk to as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of things. It's always a good day when you can get together with international friends and talk about movies, guys. And listen, that will do it, by the way, for today's installment. And listen to all the rest of you guys who have questions outstanding that you had sent in, from James Bonner, Don Stellato, William Ernst, Kal-El, all the way down. Don't worry, guys. A little bit later today, I'm going to be recording a companion video, and I'm going to be getting to all of your questions that got sent in. Keep your eyes open. That companion video will be up later today. I want to thank the people here joining me on today's show. First of all, Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM, find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, The Burnett Work, or on my website, theburnettwork.net.
And of course, also joining us, Miss Ashley Whalen. Ashley, when you're not out acting and modeling and doing all the things you do, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on my Twitter, AshAttack1, or my Instagram is my name. It's Ashley Whalen, and there's 2 Y's in Ashley.
And you guys, of course, can just follow me on Instagram, simply at John Campea. And by the way, guys, once again, remember, if you want to send in topics or questions for the John Campea Show, the new way to do it is to go to the newly relaunched website, by the way, and go check out the website, www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. And that's where you fill out the form to send in your topic or question. It helps me keep things organized. And by the way, I also have a little blog that I keep on there to keep people up to date on things. We just relaunched it. I'm really excited about it. Go and check that out. That will do it for us for today, guys. Thanks so much for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.